Hello and thanks for joining us on your channel of choice, Africa Independent Television, AIT. Let me welcome you to the signature show for this Sunday, our last edition before Christmas, and indeed our last edition for this year 2020. My name is Mwabozi Njoko, and in this edition of the program, rescued Kankara Government Science College schoolboys. Who is interested in destroying the North? Corruption. Does it undermine the fundamental human rights of Nigerians? And can we think outside the box to tackle it? It is a feast of issues in the polity, if you ask me. Just stay with us and we'll be back. Now, it was a good news on Thursday night when a relieved Katsina State Governor Aminu Masari told the media that the over 300 schoolboys of the Government Science Secondary School, Kankara, had been released by the abductors. Boko Haram, the Islamic terror group making life rather unbearable in northeastern states of Nigeria, had claimed responsibility for the attack on the school and the abduction of the students. But Governor Masari said that the attack was by bandits and the students were released with the assistance of Fulani herdsmen. We must congratulate the Katsina State government for acting very fast to rescue the boys. We must also congratulate the coalition of northern groups that put pressure on the authorities to secure the release of the schoolboys. However, questions need to be raised and questions need to be answered. For instance, how did the bandits manage to abduct and move over 300 students out of their school? How many vehicles were in the convoy of these terrorists that escaped the detection of both the local community and the security agents, both on their way to and from the school? Now, under what conditions was the release of these boys secured? As we join the families of the released children to celebrate their freedom, there's no doubt that our government and our security agencies have an explanation to give us, to give this country. On December 10th, 2020, the world marked this year's International Human Rights Day. This year's event focused on the violation of human rights which women and girls are subjected to in many countries of the world. For Action Aid, a non-governmental organization operating in Nigeria, two issues stand out as sore thumbs in Nigeria's leprous human rights fingers. The first is that Nigeria has become the world's third most terrorized nation on earth, and the COVID-19 pandemic has added more load to the nation's human rights burden.
Women and girls have continued to bear the burden of the effects of violence and conflict. And COVID-19 pandemic has further heightened incidents of violence on women and girls as it introduced a new dimension to violence. Between January and May 2020, only about 717 cases of rape were recorded by the Nigerian police. This is not by us, but by the Nigerian police. And so, during this time, during the lockdown, mostly by the lockdown period, the pandemic brought with it a substantial rise in reported cases of gender-based violence, with a monthly increase of about 149% in 23 states across the country.
Apart from terrorism and the COVID-19 lockdown, which have caused new human rights violations, many Nigerian states have not domesticated the Child Rights Act. That act provides the strongest legal protection for the girl child whose rights today are violated on account of culture and religious practices.
Boko Haram activities have gone on unabated, and frustratingly too, that every group that seems to be critical about the Islamic religion or the or Muslims, that group is declared as a terrorist organization, and yet the terrorist organizations within this sect, within these religious bodies, are treated with kid gloves.
Any state that has not passed the child, that has not adopted the child's right law, is doing disservice to the children in that state. That law is one piece of legislation that has been crafted in such a way that children are the centerpiece of that legislation. It protects their rights, it assures of their responsibility, and tells us what it is that we can do when a child is in conflict with the law or in contact with the law.
Additionally, institutions like the National Human Rights Commission, created to enhance and protect the rights of citizens, are rendered ineffective on account of poor funding.
The government has a duty. It's their primary responsibility to set up this commission and to equip the commission to do its work. One major way is to give us all the infrastructure we need. The government is supposed to promote and protect the human rights of the people. How does government do this? Through its agencies. The police, the military, Human Rights Commission, ministries, agencies, and so on and so forth. And then, if you look at the records also, you find out that the major violators of human rights is also the government.
It is a paradox if the government becomes the greatest violator of human rights in Nigeria. The government is a creation of the Constitution, which also provides in Chapter 2, Section 14, that, I quote, "The security and welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government," end of quote. In the matter of security and the violation of rights of Nigerians to life undermined by terrorism, President Muhammadu Buhari himself had once held the government to account.
The government has failed to do its principal duty of protecting life or property of all beings inside its territory in Nigeria. And what happened, as I said, in Ekiti and Oshun, the number of military, police, other law enforcement agencies deployed to rig elections in favor of the ruling party, if those were effectively used in the Northeast, the end of the insurgency could have been met. The government is not serious about curbing the insurgency in the Northeast.
Unfortunately, the situation seems not to be improving, as kidnappers, terrorists, and bandits prowl every state of Nigeria today. In the last 2 weeks or so, Nigeria has lost 67 farmers in Borno State to terrorists and 334 schoolboys to bandits in Katsina State.
This issue of insecurity has been there with us and degenerating. We have lamented. We set up committees and we made recommendations. Up to now, Mr. President, the first report that you submitted to this Senate was not implemented. The second report was also not implemented. We have made several suggestions in this Senate and nothing was done. Mr. President, you need to, and this Senate needs to move a step further to save this country.
As the world celebrates the International Human Rights Day, the Nigerian government, whose reason for being is the security and welfare of the people, must provide the basis for the citizen to trust that his rights are indeed protected. It is a legitimate expectation which every responsible government should meet. Now, that special report, it launches us into the issues of corruption and the protection of fundamental human rights of Nigerians. Now, honestly speaking, I pity Muhammadu Buhari, who elected on his own to position himself as a corruption killer, as he begged, as he cajoled, as he convinced Nigerians to vote him in as president in 2015. The verdict today is that he has failed woefully in addressing corruption in the country. The fact of the matter is that corruption today runs Nigeria. From the civil service, the security agencies, to the judiciary, even the intellectual community, corruption drives every action and every decision. In fact, many Nigerians today plan their lives making provision for corruption. The question is there anyhow else Nigeria can address its corruption challenge outside expecting miracles from anti-corruption, religious, security, and prosecutory institutions? If Nigerians are enabled to know, demand, and enforce their rights under the law, will corruption be reduced? Well, in the course of last week, a human rights activist and lawyer, Barrister Maxwell Opara, launched a book to help Nigerians understand the process of enforcing their rights under the law and maybe reduce corruption. Maxwell Opara, who is a lawyer and rights activist, called on the media, civil society organizations, and security agencies to collaborate and put issues of human rights in the public space. He said such collaboration will put all stakeholders on their toes and help in protecting the rights of Nigerians.
The way forward is the media. The way forward is the lawyers. We should come up and say no to it. So it is encompassing the parents, the lawyers, the police, the media, we lawyers. Everybody is involved. Most of the times when they took the person to hospital, the human rights violator will rush to the hospital and bribe the doctor to give a useless and unfavorable report. The hospital, the doctor is also involved. So everybody is encompassing.
The chief launcher of the book, Dr. Charles Ugomo, a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, recommended the effective implementation of community policing as one method of protecting the rights of Nigerians. He, however, said that for community policing to achieve the protection of the rights of Nigerians, the curriculum for police training must be reviewed to accommodate respect for the citizens.
The issue of human rights and the rule of law is the base for any good governance. And for Maxwell Opera to have delved into it, I think it has a great chance for good governance. I think that's why police is calling for community policing. And I think there should be for training and retraining in the Nigerian police force. Actually, we want a situation whereby there should be police should be able to respect the citizenry. And the citizenry needs to trust the police, have confidence in the police, and then the job will be well done.
Chairman of the book presentation, Professor Godwin Owo, while commending the author, observed that power is like a revolving door and must show anybody in the power room the exit someday. He called on those in authority to respect the rights of others and queried the criteria for conferring the privilege of senior advocates of Nigeria on lawyers, some of who, he said, have not contributed to expanding the bounds of jurisprudence nor humanizing law in Nigeria.
This book is a book which time has come. It's a book that we are recommending for schools, universities, research institutes, foundations that are based on good governance, economic growth and development. Upcoming youths to actually look at what the issues are and drive it. Then for those who today drive the economy, who today drive the politics, because it's a revolving door. By the time we understand and appreciate the fact that life, positions, is revolving, And I think that is what the erudite barrister has done.
The reviewer of the book, Paul Dowder, a lawyer, described the book as a needed literature as Nigeria faces human rights crossroads.
What the author has done in 194 pages of literature is to create a channel for intellectual exchange. We say we're a democracy, but the citizenry experience on a day-to-day basis bottlenecks with regards to access to justice and procedural and technical issues that do not allow them enforce their basic and inalienable rights. Police brutality and intimidation of the masses is on the increase. And as it seems, the mechanisms available for the citizenry to hold those in public service accountable really appear to be weak. Many human rights activists, we have journalists here, they can testify to this, in recent times have been harassed and exposed to criminal trial and outright persecution for simply airing contrary views or criticism against conduct or policies of those in power. The book is indeed an embodiment of the saying, knowledge is power.
The 194-page book presented to the public on Wednesday attracted notable personalities, including former Permanent Secretary of the Federal Capital Territory, Chief Johnny Chukwu, notable lawyers, the human rights community, and the media. Also, singling out Nigerians whose actions and contributions elevate life and learning in Nigeria is one way to encourage sacrifice, selflessness, and having faith in the nation. That is a strong tool for fighting corruption when the upright and the committed are held up as examples of national conduct. Now, last week, the Alex Ekwueme Federal University in Ebonyi State recognized one such Nigerian. Signature Show correspondent Michael Ilediago was at the event, and he tells us more now.
This is SignatureTV.org. Breaking the news. Following the news. Analyzing the news. 247 round the clock. All on the go. SignatureTV.org. News in your pocket.
Engineer Anayo Bedford Onwebu has been commended for his exemplary leadership, humility, and development of the Alex Ekwueme Federal University Ndufu Alike A.E. Funai in Ebonyi State. The Vice Chancellor of the university, Professor Chinedum Wajoba, made the commendation during the 2020 5th and special convocation ceremony of the A.E. Funai, where Chief Onwebu was conferred with an honorary doctorate degree. Professor Wajoba noted that Engineer Anayo Onwebu has remained pivotal to the development of the institution and has served as the first pro-chancellor of the institution.
You are exemplary in followership. People talk about crisis of leadership or the crisis of followership in Nigeria. Well, you have been very good followers. Recommended that the governing council, in line with the tradition of the university, approved the conference of honorary doctorate degrees in business administration on Engineer Anayo Onwebu. Our university recognizes integrity and excellence, and that informed the choice of this awardees. Character in entrepreneurship is the theme of this season. And that is also what we have listened to today. Because we need to raise models, genuine models and heroes for the younger generation to copy. And that is what I found in the Badmos, Engineer Onwebu, and Sakorafo.
The Honorable Member representing Oji River Local Government in the Enugu State House of Assembly, Honorable Jeff Mba, and the traditional ruler of Ibagwanike, Igwe Emmanuel Ugu, said the A.E. Funai recognition of Engineer Onwebu is well deserved.
He is the first pro-chancellor of this university, chairman of the council. And during his tenure, the university moved from the infancy to what I might call the adult age. The work he did in the university is You can't compare what he has done to the society. It's just the beginning. I mean, if you compare to what he has done to his community, what he has done to the people of Ojiriba, Enugu State, the church, the community, and so many other institutions like that, you will just say that this is an honor well deserved.
A good turn deserves another. He has done much in AE and as a then Chancellor, he executed a lot of projects here, not to be numbered. And I thank God that today, that AE respectively honored him.
Speaking after receiving the award, Chief Onwebu said the honor is one of his happiest moments in life.
He took my first sitting as a pro-chancellor of that university to get that third road we all drove on today done for the university, because I drove straight to the government house of Ebonyi State and asked the governor to do me that honor, and he granted it that day. So taking a trip to that place is full of memories, but good memories. And I am particularly happy and grateful that the outgoing Vice Chancellor did turn the university positive.
On behalf of myself and the entire family, we owe great thanks to each and every one of you for contributing immensely to the success of today's occasion. Your presence here has made the day for us. Once more, Your Excellency, thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much.
At the reception after the convocation, Chief Bwazuago Nweke Bwazuago pointed out that the character of Anayo Onwebu is worthy of emulation.
When somebody is outstanding in show of unity and support, but the remaining days of this day will not come. But the remaining days of this day will not share tears of sorrow. But the remaining days of this day will not die. Nobody of yours will die. You will live and testify the goodness of God in the land of the living.
Among the dignitaries that attended the ceremony was the governor of Enugu State, Right Honorable Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi.
You are watching the Signature Show on AIT. Next is our conversation, which today is a cap, as we promised, on our running story on enemy in the house. How Neco officials undermine their own examinations. Please stay with us. Now, let me welcome you to the conversation segment of the Signature Show. Incidentally, this edition of the program will be our last for the year, our last before Christmas holiday. So, even at the end of this program, I still wish you Merry Christmas, but please, you're welcome to the program for this Sunday. Now, you've been following our expose on enemy in the house, how Neco officials undermine their own examinations, and the network of fraud that goes from the candidates to the coaching centers, to the schools, and compromised Neco officials. I promised you last Sunday that we are going to cap up the three-part series this Sunday, but we are going to give it more flesh. And so in our conversation segment this afternoon, I have somebody who's reported in the media, who's covered events, who's administered the media in the FCT, Jacob Eddy. Jacob, you're welcome to the conversation.
Thank you, Chief Mwabwezi.
Jacob was the FCT chairperson of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, so I am Jacob's subject. Jacob,
thank you,
you are welcome.
Thank you, Chief Mwabwezi.
You heard my background. We've been running one particular story. Today will be the third week running. The story of how Neco exams are compromised, bought and sold. But let us begin this conversation with the lamentations of the Minister of Education, Adamu, last week, Friday, in fact, penultimate Friday. He said that products of Nigerian universities cannot even express themselves, that they cannot write. Abdullahi Ganje of FCT, Nigeria Labour Congress, was to be in this conversation with us because there is a labor implication, that's a manpower implication to what the minister said. First, Eddie, how did we find ourselves in this kind of situation?
Well, Chief Mwabwezi, thank you for having me once again. Let me also wish our viewers a Merry Christmas and compliments of this season. The state of education in Nigeria, I think the government should have declared the state of emergency in the education sector in this country. If the Minister of Education can come out to make this kind of proclamation, I call it a proclamation, because I assume that he must have done his checks to come up with this position, then that is sad. The first question to ask is, so what is he doing about it? What has he been doing as Minister of Education if he knows so much? That said, the state of education in Nigeria is only getting worse. There's nothing new with the condition we are now. It has been like this for a very long time. And I recall that some years ago, I was shouting that if we are now having private primary schools, we should wait for it. It will get to the secondary school, it will get to the universities. So there is a systemic problem which refuses to fix the problems in the public school. And these problems have degenerated to what it is now. And this is where we are. Yes, the minister is right. You can hardly meet a graduate on the streets of Nigeria now who can successfully write
coherently,
even talk coherently or write a complete short sentence. And you do not blame them. They need education. But what kind of education does the country have to offer them? Not much. When teaching, the qualification for teaching becomes lack of job, the product can only be imagined. People teach now because they are through with school, and so no job anywhere. Go and look for a teaching appointment. So he or she is not going there to offer anything. He or she is going there to have a space to eke out a living. So you do not expect that that teacher will give anything. And the product of that arrangement is disaster. That is what we are seeing right now. It's not the fault of the student who made himself available in the classroom. It's also not the fault of the teacher who didn't have job. It's the fault of the system who did not provide the enabling environment. And that takes me somewhere. As long as our policy makers can afford to send their children to study abroad, forget about anything good happening in the educational sector of this country. Were it possible, if you rise to certain level in government or in power or in public office or position of authority, your children should school in public schools. They should attend public schools. I can assure you that some of these problems will not get there. And I give you the example of late General Sani Abacha. Due to, not by design anyway, but his children found themselves schooling in University of Abuja and ABU. I can recall, this was around 95, 96. University of Abuja did not go on strike because Abacha's children were there. So if today, even the Minister of Education, if he has children of school age and they are schooling in public school, I am assuring you that what you are seeing today will not happen. So there is insincerity on the part of
our policymakers.
There's serious insincerity. So they really don't care about what happens to the common man, what happens in the educational sector. They don't care.
Now, Eddie, you mentioned that teaching has become a job when you don't have a job. Now, there is a problem here. I think it was under the Jonathan administration, even also, I want to believe, I'm not very sure, under this Buhari administration, that we said first class from our universities, high-performing products of the system should be enabled into the teaching profession. I know that on this program, we congratulated the president when he said that there was going to be a new reward structure for a Nigerian teacher. In other words, there is an effort to attract qualified manpower and remunerate them appropriately into the teaching profession. But there is something else that contradicts this very policy, and that is schools. Let me even go to federal government colleges around the country. They want sparkling results. They want to say they are producing the high flyers. They want more students to choose them as the preferred colleges. So, internally, they undermine the integrity of the examination in order to present to the public that they're a high-performing school. Isn't there a worry there about value and integrity on the part of the schools?
Let me start from the policy of ensuring that people who make first class are employed as teachers. What is the quality of the first class? Some first class degrees are bought. So if you
buy your way through.
If you buy your way through and you're able to have a certificate that bears first class, is your own quality, your production, is it first class? If the answer is no, then everything about the policy and execution is a nullity. Now, if you talk about brandishing high grades, this is prevalent in private schools. They want parents to know that in a particular school, nobody gets less than 6 straight A's, 7 straight A's. In such institutions, some of them, I can tell you that the management of the institution is complicit. The management of the institution is complicit. Now, what happens in private schools is that these results are either bought, or the questions are given to them, or they have what they call magic centers. This is what happens in private schools. So, either way, there is a problem. Either way, there is a problem. And that is why I started telling you that the education sector in this country, there should be a state of emergency declared in that sector. If that is not done, we are going to have generation of Nigerians that are ill-educated, and the product can only be disaster. Anything short of disaster is not the product. This is the challenge we're having. So both in the private schools and public schools, there is problem.
The examining institutions, and I want to be a little bit focused on the one on which we did our story, on Neco. But the examining institutions are supposed to be above the rot, because they are assessing institutions to be able to dictate that certain things are going wrong, and therefore sieve, detect and punish.
Let me not cut you short. Some of the administrators of these governing bodies you are talking about are product of this same system. Some of them wrote WAEC and have the answers given to them. Some of them wrote WAEC and had teachers writing it for them. They don't even read anymore. So as they are growing up, they begin to see the business aspect of
in that assessment institution.
So they tell you, why do you waste your time when you can get these grades? They even approach you and tell you how easily this can be done. So it's a hydra-headed problem. Students now wake up and don't really want to read. What they think of as they get to the senior classes, how easily can they have grades? How easily can they have grades? This is what they tell you. And you do not blame them. I spend all the night reading, and my colleague student maybe was sleeping because he or she had opportunity to have seen the questions and maybe answers. Human nature, everybody likes going through the easy way out. So he or she joins the gang. The principal of the school wants his school to come tops, not because the students really worked hard or the teachers worked hard on these people, but because they can easily buy off the questions. I want to tell you, I know that in the last 6 or 7 years, you don't hear that a particular student was withdrawn or asked to repeat anymore. Once you enter JS1, you are going to JS2 and JS3. It is automatic. So what is the need for the exams? What is the need for the assessment? It's not necessary. It's not necessary. Nobody promotes, nobody repeats a class.
Nobody is demoted. Nobody is sent back to a junior
Those
class.
Days, you will see somebody even in primary school repeating. You see someone in secondary school repeating. But they don't do that anymore. And it is not like the system is not even aware of what is going on. I'm sure the order given to principals to ensure that students don't repeat or are withdrawn must come from the top. Because, for instance, in secondary schools, you have inspectors going around the schools every day or every time. What are they inspecting? What are they inspecting? So it makes the whole thing laughable. So policy is only on paper, not in execution. And we are the worst for it.
I will shortly come to the Ministry of Education, but permit me first for us to look at the family. In the story we've been running, you will see a mother. In fact, she has a baby on her back, which means she's a mother, writing out the answers to the questions for the students to copy. You will hear our negotiation on how much to pay with another mother. I'm worried about that, in the sense that a father, a parent, expects that not just sending his or her ward to school, but that the person is groomed and made useful and can apply himself or herself in society and make a decent living, have a career. And knowing full well that if you buy these things, that child is not prepared to be useful in society. Yet, a mother, yet a parent goes ahead to procure the questions and the answers for his or her own ward. Isn't that the family destroying its own wards?
But as sad as it is, this is a reality. I don't know why parents go to that extent. I told my children, I used to tell them, I said, I'm not going to make any call or call anybody to give you admission. Pass your WAEC, I see the result on my phone, then we go to the market and buy your things and you go to the university. Now, I keep preaching this to them. So it's making sense to them that daddy will not lift his finger for you if you don't do what you can do. But when you see parents doing this, but you see, sometimes you also don't blame these parents. Yes, you also don't blame these parents. Everybody seems to be doing it, and nobody's checking it. And they want their children to go to the university. Imagine a situation where a child maybe makes like 300 or 350 in WAEC, and then you need connection for that child to get admission into a federal university in Nigeria. What story will you tell the child? What story will you tell the child? Yes, I agree that no parent should actually internalize these values in their words. But the reality is that this is what is going on. So if you sit back, you are going to have yourself to blame, because your child won't progress to the next stage. And those children who are getting admission, getting all the straight A's, is not because they worked harder than your own child. It's because their parents did the same thing for them.
Did the wrong things for them.
Yes, of course, wrong. So there is a problem now of value. there is a problem now of value. But when what the child listens to every day, either on television or radio, wild stories of corruption, how people steal money, how somebody is stealing 12 billion, how the other person is taking 20 billion, 200 billion. Of course, these are human beings and their mind is working. So it begins to make sense to the child that the only way to make
success
is just to make it, the end justifying the means. So yes, there is a challenge with the family, but there's also value orientation, which I believe the government should work at. When the current president was head of state, we had this war against indiscipline. It was everywhere. You didn't need a law enforcement officer to be around you for you to be conscious of the fact that you must stay on the right lane. Yes, it happened in this country. So we have agencies like National Orientation Agency. What are they doing? What are they doing? I'm told that maybe they are not funded. So if they are not funded, what do you want them to do? So government should actually fund such institutions, and then they begin to mount a campaign to internalize these good values, in our children. If they don't do that, they will be doing us an incalculable harm. In the next 10, 15, 20 years, why will I want to go to school when I know that I can either get it the wrong way? There will be no need. But the damage done to the system will be abnormal.
Eddie, I want to lay the foundation for our conversation on the policymakers, and I will zero in shortly on the Ministry of Education. But first, look at the COVID-19 challenge the world has been facing. The United States has not just responded to COVID-19 with money, it has responded to COVID-19 with knowledge. The product of its educational system, its scientists who are products of the educational system have risen to the occasion, applied knowledge to give humanity an answer. No matter what you may say, Russia, applying knowledge, products of their school, the educational system, they have provided an answer. China, also relying on its educational system, has provided an answer. Oxford, in collaboration, is providing an answer. That is because education is answering to the needs of society. From point of know-how, knowledge, who is driving our policy to make education answerable to society's challenge? Let me, at this instance, call your attention to what we have done about this story. The moment we finished the investigation and the story was ready, we wrote a letter to the Honorable Minister of Education, Adamu, listing, not in total, some of the things that have happened in the course of doing this story, and requesting for a conversation with them so that it becomes an opportunity for us to raise policy issues, for us to look at the challenges and what government is doing, and then let the public key into it. But we were roundedly ignored. As a matter of truth, our letter to the minister was minuted to the permanent secretary. The permanent secretary minuted it to the head of procurement. The head of procurement minuted it to the director of press, who has kept it there since then. Now, when we went on a follow back, we play you back the answers we got. As a matter of truth, magic centers are already known in the ministry, that there are magic centers.
If he wants minister to see this,
and act on it. He should give him time. He's not the only one that sends me out. If he wants to blow it, he can go ahead and blow it. After blowing it, what next? They will not start talking about that.
Who should be driving our response to the situation we have on hand, Eddie?
Well, it's the same thing that I've been talking about. We have a system that is compromised at all levels. Under normal circumstances, an issue like this should be what a minister should rise up to. But if the case is treated with levity, as you have explained, then we are in trouble. Let us call a spade by its name. Then we are in trouble. Because you now don't know who to speak with.
What next to do?
What next to do. So when you are done with your story, and maybe after 2 hours it's on air, then another 48 hours people talk about it, the matter ends there. And we move on. This is the contradiction of our narrative as a nation. And it should not be. Why shouldn't the Minister of Education rise up to this and either use it as an opportunity to formulate policy or even tell Nigerians that this is what government knows about this? I cannot make a case for that. I can't understand in any reasonable sense why that matter you just talked about is treated as they have done. But this is how bad things have become in Nigeria. So you now ask yourself, what is the job of the minister? What is he doing? What is he administering? Why will a case like this be mediated to director of procurement? What is there? Maybe they don't even know the process. I'm sure there must have been director of schools or something like that. So there we are.
You know one thing that they accuse us in the media of throwing up problems so that we can sell our papers and get our programs watched. That the media never really wants to talk about solutions to problems. Incidentally, really, I'm not a policymaker, so I mightn't be able to hazard answers to some of these challenges. But let me tell you something immediately. The moment we broke this story, penultimate Sunday, Neco reached out to us. Neco has established a 6-man committee to get to the bottom of this matter. We have been in touch with the Kaduna State chapter of the Nigerian Parents Teachers Association. We are investigating. We are not. Neco is now investigating how complicit the Kaduna State Ministry of Education is in this whole matter. We are giving them the pictures of people with their faces shown dictating questions or answers to questions, sitting by watching the fraud going on where they're supposed to be supervisors. Eddie, can you and I hazard what we can do to begin to address this challenge?
What is Neco talking about? Are they saying they don't know what is going on?
At least we are giving them evidence.
Their officers are around the country to monitor these exams. Yes. Why will a Neco officer, for instance, live in affluence? What is he or she doing? Is Neco an oil company or a bank? This is where we know that they pay some very fat amount of money. So I'm telling you that Neco is aware of what is going on. They cannot feign ignorance of it. They are aware. Don't they get field reports? Their officers are around everywhere, going for, every once in a while you hear that, oh, one Neco officer is going for inspection or invigilation. So they know what is going on. I'm sure that they are also being compromised. When a Neco officer comes to a school, and then the school corners the Neco officer, and so you take XYZ amount of money and just pretend
look the other way.
Look the other way, that you don't know what is going on. Do you understand my point? So at the end of the day, who do you blame? Well, I'm interested in what will come out of the investigation of Neco. But I can assure you that maybe what they set out to do, perhaps you were just a bit smart, was to see how they could either compromise you or ask you to drop the story. I challenge them. Let them come up with the report of their investigation, then let heads roll in this country. Then we will know that they were actually sincere with the investigation they are talking about. When they came, did they allow you to record? If they didn't allow you, then something is wrong. If they didn't allow you to put your camera and record the process of the discussion you are having, then I am telling you that something is wrong. They didn't come there for any reason that is honorable. They would have allowed you to record. And why is it taking them forever to come up with a report? Even a preliminary report. It is allowed. So if these things are not as I am telling you, then I assure you, sir, something is wrong somewhere.
Now, Eddie, let me just cap up this conversation by drawing our attention to what I had said earlier. Yes. And that is that this, as you said, this seems to be a systemic challenge, a systemic rot. Neco, it is there. WAEC is there. JAMB, it is there. Even, what do they call it, post-UME, it is there. Do you think that our security agencies, our undercover agencies, can help this situation? Let me tell you why I'm asking you this question. In my days in the university, there were students who never graduated, but they were security operatives. They will move from one course. After 2 or 3 years, when they're supposed to graduate, they change course. After some time, they change university. But they were constantly making available to the system the goings on for right and timely decisions. Is our security system incapable of helping us in this matter?
I won't give you a monosyllabic answer, but if it is proved that they are incapable, I will not argue with it. Otherwise, if they are still on the campuses, why are we still having this situation and the authorities don't know? Where do they submit their reports to? Who did they submit reports to? Do you understand? So it may not be because they are not writing reports. It could be because the people receiving these reports have decided not to do anything with it. Let me say something here. The most loyal agent of state, this is my personal opinion, remains the SSS. Their loyalty to the state, you cannot fault. So I am sure that they are doing their jobs. They are writing the reports. But the person or the authority receiving this report may have decided to do something else with it, which has led to where we are. Yes. And without sounding pessimistic, I don't see this coming to an end so soon. I don't see this coming to an end so soon. Some years ago, maybe like 20 years ago, yes, there were reports of exam malpractice, but the perpetrators were not as courageous as we have today. They were not. If you look at exam malpractice, even by my own record, after the Civil War, before the Civil War, we didn't have issues like this. But after the Civil War, the people from Southeast began to see that some of their colleagues outside the Southeast were seeing question papers. And so they made contact with, I'm sure, other parts of Nigeria, and now saw that, oh, this is how we do it. And they also started doing it. Then maybe the people up north also joined.
And bought into it.
Exactly. So now the thing has become...
It's not a national market.
Exactly. And the pain is that the system doesn't see this as a problem. Any nation without education is a nation in disaster. It's as simple as that. We have a minister in this country who boasted that maybe in 2 or 3 years, they will be able to manufacture toothpick in Nigeria. Something is wrong. Go to the Southeast or go to Apo here in Abuja and see what Igbo boys are doing with bare hands, crude implements. I believe that if the government can only aggregate them and harvest all of these interests together, we will be very, very close to manufacturing a vehicle in this country. And they will complement what people like Innocent are doing. What they are doing is to assemble. What we are talking about is, how long will we continue to be a consumer nation? How long will this?
Because our education system cannot service our
exactly.
needs.
The curriculum is not even designed in such a way that it will lead to production. What the curriculum does for you is to teach you how to continue to follow up what has been done. We have universities. What are they doing? We have laboratories. What are they doing? And year in, year out, government approves budget for some of these things. What happens to the money? So we are in real danger. We are in real danger. So when the minister said that graduates on Nigerian streets cannot write or something, yes, he's right. But knowing that much, what did he do? That is a problem.
Thank you very much. My name never changes. It remains Mwagos Njoko. Let's meet again in 2021. Well, well, well. What can I say? Just to wish all of us a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. My producer, Sahid, said I should tell you, Assalamu alaikum. My name remains Mwagos Njoko. Can we meet in 2021? Enjoy the rest of your day. Good afternoon.